Alright guys, what is up? I'm going to make a quick tutorial video for you today based on what we're going to talk about in class and using what is called the quick selection tool. This is used for cutting people out or subjects out of a picture in order to replace a background or place them somewhere else in our artboard. So anyway, let's get to it. Here's the picture that we're going to create from scratch. This picture has a guy holding a basketball along with the background that was not the original background, so I'm going to show you from scratch how I did that. I'm going to close this out and start from scratch. If I head over to my Finder, I'll look at my photos. Here's the original shot. Drag it in. Here we go. So when you first drag in a picture, it's really good to unlock that picture because it's the only layer so far. So by default, it locks it. So just going to click on this lock to unlock that layer. Alright, so if I go over here, my first tool, or the tool we're going to use is the quick selection tool, and it is the fourth tool down from the list. So I'm going to grab that. Here's a couple tips for you. So we can use the left and right brackets on your keyboard to make that brush bigger and smaller. So I'm going to make it fairly big so that I can pretend like I'm coloring inside the lines to select this character. So I'm going to click, and you can see that the dotted line selected pretty well around his head there, and but we're missing some part of his neck here, and so we're going to just click, continue to click, but never be half in, half out. We want to be completely in our subject. So, and in this case it took too much, but that is okay. We can come back to that. Make this brush a little smaller. Just want to do a quick click around to kind of get the best selection possible, and then we can refine the selection later. Okay. Alright, and a little tip, if you hold command and you press the plus and minus sign, you can zoom in and zoom out to your picture. Alright, that should be pretty good. So now we have these parts here that are kind of not part of his shoulders. It's selected too much. So let's go up here to the left hand corner, top corner, and select the subtract from selection button. So it's represented by a minus sign. When we do that, I can click on this selection and it will bring it back. Okay. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Okay. So we do have this section in between his arms, so I can also use this subtraction part of the tool. But I gotta make that brush smaller. Now I can click on this inside area. Make the brush a little bit smaller. This is where it kind of can get tricky, but did a fairly good job there. Let's try this side. One click did the trick there, so that's awesome. Just make sure I got everything. And okay, so that is step one completed. And the next thing that we're going to do to apply this selection is choose a specific tool down here in the layers panel. This is kind of, we gotta shrink this down. Down here in the layers panel, and it is the layer mask tool. So add layer mask, if you hover over it, it will say. It's next to the FX button as well, and it's represented by the rectangle with a circle inside. So when I click on that, it isolates this guy. So what this means is that now we have this mask on top of the picture. We didn't permanently erase it. We just put a mask over the parts that we do not want to see. So the picture is still there. I can turn that on and off all I want. But now we can add our background. So let's go back to the Finder. This is the background that I used. Let's just make that bigger to make it fill the frame. Hit enter. Gotta rearrange these layers so that it's behind our character. And there we go. So now they're layered properly, but the background picture doesn't really fit with the picture of this guy. This guy was outside, or under, I mean this is outside too, but he was under the direct sun, so he's kind of washed out. So we want to make the background fit the foreground. So what we're going to do is with this bottom layer selected, you may have to do this, you may not have to do this, but in this case I'm going to show you how it works. So I'm going to choose the hue and saturation adjustment layer because we're talking about adjustments a little bit, and I can adjust that lightness by dragging it up. Check that out. Now it's only affecting the background because it is in between the two layers. An adjustment layer only affects what is below the adjustment layer. So the only thing that's below it is the background. So it's really important to where you put the adjustment layer. If I brought this up to the top, it's going to affect everything. Put it back in the middle there so that it only affects the background. And now this guy looks like he fits a lot better. So you may mess with a bunch of different adjustment layers to try to figure out what's going to work best for your picture. You may end up recoloring something, adding a filter on top, whatever it may be. But I want you guys to have fun with it. Place yourself somewhere that you've always wanted to go, maybe a popular vacation spot that you've been to before, or somewhere that you've always dreamed of going. So let's get pictures of you, Photoshop you wherever you want to go.